Пам-парам! Пам-парам! Приветствую смотрящих!
Is he coming?
Arno's question fades unanswered in the darkness. Siska meets his gaze with a solemn shake of her head.
So, we have to do this without him. Maybe if we wait a little longer.
It wouldn't make a difference. He's not coming. A simple question of money. He wants more. I have nothing left to give to him. He figures he's in the clear with Rondane now that Ignatz won't link him to the town hall documents.
Sadly, I cannot say that I'm surprised. It's just that I hoped for more this time. After everything that happened during those first few days of peace, I think he just wanted to protect himself. Not caring was a sensible choice. Now, the habit has become the man.
Have you known him for a long time?
Since the last days of a war which destroyed more than we can ever rebuild. Wilt was on the run from his regiment after killing a senior officer. A spat over a woman. One morning my unit swept through a small town near Passau, foolishly hoping to find supplies amongst the ruins. Instead, I found Wilt, starving and alone, hiding from the world and delirious from exhaustion.
You didn't kill him?
I knew he was not one of ours, but something about his pathetic and weary eyes. I hesitated, only for a second. It was enough. I too deserted, and we survived together somehow in the rubble for a few months. Not long after that, peace came.
He didn't go home afterward?
Wilt cannot go home. The hangman's noose awaits him back in London, and he knows it. He lives like the lost exile he is. Forever temporary in a place that he doesn't understand and which doesn't want him. He tried swapping Vienna for Turin once. It made little difference. He was back here after only a few months.
I was tough on him earlier.
If you're worried you upset him, I wouldn't waste your time. He doesn't let much get to him anymore. Now, we should move.
Smoke bellows from the colossal lip of the cooling tower. The stirrings of some steel titan echo from the cavernous chamber below.
Keep going. We need to find access to the lower levels.
Arno spits roughly, his throat coated with soot like bitter black chalk. Cold chimney silhouettes lurk in the smog, a thin forest of burned and barren tree trunks.
Whatever is inside, it's not a small-scale operation. The factory appears to have its own source of power.
Now and then, human voices echo throughout the metal shafts connecting the lower levels.
We should be careful. It'll be harder to deal with any guards now that Wilt isn't around.
symphony of whirring, hammering, and drilling reverberates down the factory's corridors and air shafts.
Some of this reminds me of an automobile plant. But the dimensions of the components suggest something much bigger and heavier.
The squeal from nearby loudspeakers pierces the din. Moments later, the factory noise has receded. The tannoy transmits a sharp intake of breath. After a half-second pause, the speaker begins, his voice fervent and tinny.
Day 264 of Project Night Shift announcement will be followed by a special message from Mr. Baynor. Announcement: Throttle service disruption has been resolved. Maintain second-order targets of 6 completed units per week. Announcement: Quality must be assured. A cartridge failure rate of 2% is unacceptable. Announcement: Testing safety is paramount. Report cartridge leaks immediately. Assembly line fatalities must be reduced. Announcement: All workers to down tools for a special message from Mr. Baynor.
I would like to reassure our workforce that despite recent reports of abuse of our technologies, Rendane products are only distributed to trustworthy clients. Your work is essential for the continued safety of resident populations. Our products are bringing about a world in which war will be impossible, a forgotten legacy of another time. Only Rendane technologies can offer the required deterrent to would-be attackers and saboteurs. Consequently, I am delighted to announce that we will soon be upgrading production lines to deliver the next generation Mark II Peace Enforcer unit.
Unscheduled announcement. Intruders detected. All security personnel to the northern assembly halls.
The tannoy clicks off, and the approach of hurried and tense voices follows immediately. Siska looks to Arno to quell her panic, but finds only her own dread reflected in his frantic breathing. Arno stirs to the rasp of a dead bolt against a corroded steel door and opens his eyes to a cramped, unlit room. Siska lies inert on a bench in the corner. Even for a street kid, a blow like that will take a few hours to recover from. The heavy door swings open, and the room floods with light. Squinting, Arno can make out the figure of a tall man approaching through the glare.
Welcome to our facility. Though uninvited, we are not at all displeased to host you. As for your friend, the third one, is he also creeping about upstairs?
Siska has come to her senses, and with effort, sits up as she listens to Torvik's confident voice command the small space of the holding chamber.
Not very talkative, I see. I guess we have here the young firebrand, Siska, and the wily old engineer, Arno. Ignaz had described you as an older man.
Ignaz? I thought you had left Vienna.
Oh, he tried. No doubt with some degree of help from you. He almost made it too. We apprehended him and his child in Gorizia. Anyway, we aren't here to gossip about others.
Are they alive?
My dear, what do you take us for? We are in the business of hearts and minds, and the corpse will offer us neither.
What purpose does this secret facility serve?
We make no secret of it, old man. We are proud to be one of the world's leading producers of peace enforcement technologies. The war left some terrible scars. I think we would all agree. Many unfairly blamed the conflict on the technologies used. They wanted to destroy an essential and honest industry. Luckily, one way or another, these idealists were defeated. Now, we understand that the only way to safeguard peace is to always be ready for war.
You build weapons?
We don't build Arno. Our work operates on a higher level. We create fear. Only fear is powerful enough to deliver us along the route to peace. It is our most prized ally. I gather that you yourself have extensive experience in this field, Arno. We are all aware of the wonderful work you did as part of the Battlefield Technologies unit during the war.
I did not choose where my skills were put to work. Before the war, I was happy as a medical chemist.
We could use your expertise round here. Think about it. Anyway, I have some other duties to attend to now. We'll continue our talk later.
With those words, Torvik is swiftly out of the door, leaving Siska and Arno once more in darkness. With the sound of his footsteps receding, Siska becomes acutely aware of her throbbing head pain.
I've heard enough from Torvik by Noir for today. Let's get out of here.
Siska slips a hairpin from the sole of her boot and sets to work on the rusty lock of the airshaft cover. Takes her less than 60 seconds.
My, impressive. We should leave via the roof. There are fewer guards up there.
Wait, if what Torvik said is true, we can leave this factory of death intact?
I don't see any other option.
I know better than most what these machines will be used for, Arno. The beginning of every battlefield horror has its roots in a place like this. When you look upon it, you see only steel levers, copper wires, and rubber handles. But I see something different. I see ripped and flayed flesh, scattered like meat in the streets. I see it all, Arno. The swollen eyeballs, the shattered fragments of bone, the rotten pulp of guts tangled in barbed wire. I cannot leave while this place continues to function. We must destroy this facility.
I spent all my life designing things to work well. I suppose it shouldn't be too hard to do the opposite for a few hours. Let's move before I change my mind.
We must not quit. Do you mind?
A dense network of conveyor belts moving in stops and starts ferries metal components about the cavernous assembly room, and there the workers tinker with the items during intervals.
I believe they're manufacturing their own vehicles to transport and launch the sulfur trioxide cartridges we saw in the distillery. This upper deck houses the central assembly computer, the master control over the production line.
Arno surveys the large computer unit before scanning the room for other equipment. He observes a smelting furnace on the lower deck of the workshop.
It's big, but maybe we can load the mainframe computer into the crucible on the lower deck. If we can figure out how to ignite the furnace while the computer is inside, we could completely halt all production.
What about the workers? I want to destroy this place, Arno, but I'm not going to murder people in the process.
It's a difficult decision. Maybe we could trigger an evacuation alarm first. Wirt came up with that trick a few days ago.
We must not quit.
The building's automated fire extinguishers have now been activated. Thick smoke plumes from the building's power transformers, and the air is fast becoming unbreathable. Arno scurries from the upper deck to the lower and flips open the safety cover housing the trolley controls. He works quickly, his fingers flying across the switches in a blur. And the last lever he toggles sends the heavy trolley careering toward the smelting furnace.
Almost done. Now we just need to ignite the furnace by adding the molten zinc from the crucible.
Instinctively, Arno locates the clunky hinges of the upper crucible. With two deft movements, he removes the steerings which hold it steady. The crucible slowly tips under its own momentum. Its volcanic ooze begins slowly, striking the mainframe with glowing chunks. Until moments later, the molten metal is flowing into the furnace, enveloping the equipment underneath.
Excellent. Now, if we can disable the cooling system of the main tower, that should ensure the fire spreads through the entire facility. We could destroy each and every one of these murderous machines.
Arno, why did Torvik mention the Battlefield Technologies unit? What exactly were you doing in the war?
It is not something which I like to talk about. Because of my engineering background, I was conscripted into the Battlefield Technologies unit. I went from making compounds for medical treatments to developing biological weapons. Weapons designed to maim and destroy, to inflict suffering and pain. For the most part, I saw nothing of the consequences of my actions. But the generals were very happy. I was their favorite. So, I knew my designs must have been effective. It was only in the last months of the war, when defeat was imminent, that I was moved into a makeshift infantry unit. That was how I came across Wild.
You designed bombs?
Bombs, bullets, missiles, traps, and much more, my child. It was an awful time, and I have never forgiven myself for what I allowed myself to become. Looking back, maybe I had a choice. I justified my actions by convincing myself I had no alternative. Today I have a choice. Let's get to work. Okay, I need to recalibrate the cooling system pressure. You will want to leave as soon as I finish releasing the valve covers. This place will be an inferno in very short order.
How will you get out?
Don't worry, I'll be right behind you after I finish removing the pressure stabilizer sockets.
Siska watches as Arno collects the 3 master valve keys from the control panel and then studies the valve blueprint.
What is it?
We must
Siska
not
scrambles
quit.
up the steps. She glances behind her at Arno, who calmly tinkers with the control panel of a large smelting furnace, oblivious to the growing flames. The handrail is scalding. The steel cladding of the tower's wall warps and begins to buckle in the heat.
Arno! Arno!
The roar of the flames is deafening. He scurries between the cooling valves of the machinery, bolting each one shut. The heat stings Siska's eyes, and they well with tears. She can barely distinguish his shape, and she struggles against the suffocating fumes for 1 second more. Just a little bit longer. He won't make it. She knows he won't make it, yet still she lingers. Finally, she turns away and stumbles from the burning chamber.
What is it? Do you mind?
Outside, the factory's fleeing workers gather in the lower courtyards downhill, marshaled by Torvik's confident, booming voice. Siska coughs and hacks as her lungs expel the noxious fumes. She staggers off, pausing for a final, desperate look at the door of the burning building. But Arno is nowhere to be seen. She turns again.